My parents handed me disownment papers at my college graduation. Not congratulations. Not a hug. Legal documents that erase me from the Bennett family, handed to me in the parking lot of the University of Washington in Seattle while I was still wearing my cap and gown. "You're a failure," my father said. "Mediocre grades. Useless degree. No job lined up. We're done being embarrassed by you." My mother didn't even look at me, just turned and started walking toward their car. I stood there holding notarized papers that said I was no longer their daughter. 22 years old, college degree in hand, and officially disowned. Then the loudspeaker crackled across the parking lot. "Madison Bennett, please return to the main stage immediately. Special announcement." My parents stopped walking, turned around, looked confused. I walked back into the arena, still holding those disownment papers. The CEO of Next Tech Solutions, the biggest software company in Seattle, stood at the podium. He was holding a microphone and a contract. And when he said my name and what I'd actually been doing for 4 years, my parents' faces went completely pale. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Because I need to know I'm not the only one whose family destroyed them right before they succeeded. My name is Madison Bennett, and I'm 22 years old. I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, just outside Seattle, in a family obsessed with appearance and achievement. My father, Richard, worked as a corporate attorney. My mother, Diane, was a real estate agent who specialized in luxury properties. They made good money, lived in a nice house, and cared deeply about what people thought of them. My older brother Cameron was their pride. Graduated top of his class from Stanford. Got hired by a prestigious consulting firm in San Francisco. Made 6 figures right out of college. He was everything they dreamed of. Then there was me, the backup child. The one who didn't fit their vision. I got into the University of Washington for computer science. Good school, but not Stanford. I didn't graduate with honors because my GPA was 3.2. Good, but not great. I didn't have a fancy job offer from a big-name company because I'd spent my college years doing something else. Something my parents knew nothing about. They saw what they wanted to see. Mediocre student.
No ambition.
No direction. A daughter who embarrassed them at cocktail parties when people asked what I was doing with my life. "She's still figuring it out," my mother would say with a tight smile that meant she was disappointed. "Not everyone is Cameron," my father would add, which meant I'd failed to live up to their standards. I stopped trying to explain what I was actually doing. Stopped trying to make them understand. They decided who I was, and nothing I said would change their minds. Senior year, things got worse. Cameron got promoted. Made partner track at 26. My parents threw him a celebration dinner. Invited 20 people. Toasted his success. Meanwhile, I told them I was graduating in June. They said, "That's nice," and went back to talking about Cameron's career trajectory. 2 weeks before graduation, they sat me down. "We need to talk about your future," my father said. "Okay. You're graduating with no job. No plan. No direction. We've supported you through 4 years of college, and you've given us nothing to show for it. I have a degree. A degree you barely earned. A 3.2 GPA is nothing to be proud of. It's above average. Average isn't good enough in this family," my mother said. "Cameron graduated with a 3.9. You graduated with mediocrity." I was focused on other things. "What other things?" "You didn't join clubs. You didn't network. You didn't intern anywhere prestigious. What exactly were you doing?" I could have told them. Should have told them. But I'd learned years ago that they didn't actually want to know. They wanted me to fit their idea of success, and when I didn't, I became invisible. "I was working," I said. "Working where?" "Freelance coding projects." My father laughed. "Freelance. That's code for unemployed." "We've made a decision," my mother said. She pulled out a manila folder. "We're formally disowning you. These are legal documents severing our relationship. After graduation, you're on your own." I stared at the folder. "You're serious?" "Completely. We've invested enough in a daughter who refuses to achieve anything. We're done." They'd had the papers drawn up by my father's law firm. Notarized. Official. I was being erased from the family. "We'll give them to you after graduation," my father said. Consider it your graduation gift. And they did. Right there, in the parking lot. While I was wearing my cap and gown. What my parents didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask about, was what I'd actually been doing for 4 years. It started freshman year. I'd always been good at coding. Taught myself in high school. Built websites, created apps, solved problems for fun. When I got to University of Washington, I kept coding. Not for class. For myself. I built a data encryption algorithm. Nothing fancy at first. Just a personal project. A way to make secure communications more efficient. I worked on it nights and weekends, refining it, testing it, making it better. Sophomore year, I published a paper about it in an online tech journal. Small publication, but people noticed. I started getting emails from companies asking about the algorithm. Could I license it? Could I consult? I said yes. Started freelancing. Made a few $1,000s here and there. Nothing huge, but it was mine. Money I earned from something I created. Junior year, Name.They Solutions reached out. They were a Seattle-based software company specializing in corporate security. They'd read my paper and wanted to discuss my algorithm. I met with their CTO, a man named Vincent Park. He asked me to explain how my encryption worked. I did. He asked if I'd be willing to sell it. I said no. Asked if they'd be willing to hire me to develop it further as part of their security division. He said yes. We made a deal. I'd work for Name.They part-time during school, developing my algorithm into a full commercial product. They'd pay me $30 an hour plus royalties on any implementation. I'd keep my name on the patents. I worked for Name.They for 2 years. 20 hours a week during school. Full-time during summers. I developed my encryption algorithm into a system that protected communications for Fortune 500 companies. My code secured millions of transactions. By senior year, Name.They's security division was generating $15 million annually. My algorithm was the foundation of everything they sold. My royalty contract gave me 3% of revenue from products using my code. I'd made $450,000 over 2 years. At 22 years old, I had money in the bank. A job waiting after graduation. Patents with my name on them. I was a published researcher with real-world applications. But my parents never knew. Never asked. They saw my 3.2 GPA and decided I was a failure. Didn't question why I was always busy. Didn't wonder where I went when I wasn't in class. Didn't care enough to ask what I was working on. They saw what they wanted to see. A disappointing daughter who wasn't Cameron. So when Vincent Park called me 3 days before graduation and asked if I'd accept a full-time position as lead encryption engineer with a starting salary of $120,000 plus continued royalties, I said yes. And when he asked if he could make the announcement at graduation as a surprise, I said yes to that too. I didn't tell my parents because they'd already decided to disown me. Already had the papers drawn up. Already written me off as a failure. Let them find out the same way everyone else would. Publicly. Undeniably. In a way they couldn't dismiss or minimize. I walked back into the arena, holding those disownment papers. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. From anger. From vindication. Vincent Park stood at the podium. He was 52, successful, respected in the Seattle tech community. When he spoke, people listened. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into the microphone. "I apologize for the interruption, but I have an announcement that couldn't wait. Madison Bennett, please come to the stage." I walked down the aisle. Every graduate and family member watching. I climbed the stairs to the stage, still in my cap and gown, still holding the papers that said I wasn't part of my family anymore. Vincent shook my hand. "Congratulations on your graduation, Madison." "Thank you." He turned back to the microphone. For those who don't know me, I'm Vincent Park, CTO of Name.They Solutions. Many of you are probably wondering why I'm here interrupting this ceremony. The answer is simple. Madison Bennett is the reason our company's security division exists. The crowd murmured. I saw my parents in the back, frozen. 2 years ago, Madison approached us with a data encryption algorithm she developed. We were impressed. Impressed enough to hire her as a junior developer while she finished school. Over the past 2 years, Madison has transformed her algorithm into the foundation of our entire corporate security platform. Vincent pulled out a document. Madison's code protects communications for 73 Fortune 500 companies. Her encryption secures over 300 million transactions annually. Her work has generated $15 million in revenue for Name.They in 2 years. More murmuring. People turning to look at me. Professors looking surprised. My parents looking shocked. Because of Madison's contributions, because of her brilliance and dedication, Name.They Solutions is offering her a full-time position as lead encryption engineer. Starting salary of $120,000 plus 3% royalties on all products using her code. That royalty contract has already earned her $450,000 during her time as a student. The arena went completely silent. You could hear people breathing. Madison Bennett is 22 years old. She graduates today with a degree in computer science and a 3.2 GPA. Some might look at that GPA and think it's mediocre. But here's what that GPA doesn't show. It doesn't show the 20-hour weeks she worked for us. It doesn't show the nights and weekends she spent perfecting code. It doesn't show that while her classmates were focused solely on grades, Madison was building something real, something valuable, something that will protect data for millions of people. Vincent turned to me. Madison, on behalf of Name.They Solutions, I'm pleased to officially offer you this position and to present you with your signing bonus. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. Congratulations, Madison. You've earned this. The arena erupted in applause. Standing ovation. People cheering. My fellow graduates congratulating me. I looked at the back of the arena. My parents stood there, faces pale, holding each other. They looked like they'd been hit by a truck. My father's mouth was open. My mother's hand was over her mouth. Both of them staring at me like they'd never seen me before. Because they hadn't. They'd never actually looked. After the ceremony ended, I stayed on stage talking to Vincent and other Name.They executives who'd come to watch the announcement. Professors congratulated me. Fellow students asked about the job. For 30 minutes, I was surrounded by people who'd just discovered what I'd been hiding for 2 years. Then I saw my parents pushing through the crowd toward me. My father reached me first. Madison, that was incredible. We had no idea. You had no idea because you never asked. We didn't know you were working for Name.They. I told you I was doing freelance coding. You laughed and called it unemployment. My mother grabbed my arm. Why didn't you tell us what you were really doing? I pulled away. I tried. Multiple times. You weren't interested. You decided I was a failure and stopped listening. That's not true. It's completely true. You compared me to Cameron constantly. You dismissed my degree. You called my GPA mediocre. You had disownment papers drawn up because you were embarrassed by me. I held up the folder they'd given me in the parking lot. These papers. You gave me these 30 minutes ago. You stood in a parking lot and told me I was no longer your daughter because I wasn't successful enough. People around us went quiet, listening. We didn't understand, my father said. If you'd known I was making money, I'd be worth keeping? That's your standard? I only have value if I'm financially successful. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. You disowned me because you thought I was a failure. Now that you know I'm not, suddenly you want to pretend this didn't happen. My mother's eyes were red. We made a mistake. We're sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Sorry doesn't erase 4 years of you dismissing everything I did. Sorry doesn't undo disownment papers. We'll destroy the papers, my father said quickly. They mean nothing. They meant something 30 minutes ago. They meant you valued appearance over your own daughter. They meant Cameron's success mattered more than anything I could achieve. They meant I was disposable as long as no one knew I was valuable. Madison, please.
No.
I cut him off. You don't get to do this. You don't get to reject me when you think I'm worthless and then claim me when you find out I'm successful. That's not how family works. We're your parents, my mother said desperately. You were my parents until you handed me legal documents saying you weren't. You made that choice. You ended this relationship. Not me. What do you want from us? My father asked. Nothing. I don't want anything from you. That's what you never understood. I never needed your approval or your support. I built this on my own. I succeeded despite you, not because of you. And now I'm going to keep succeeding without you. You can't mean that. I mean every word.
You disowned me.
Now I'm accepting it. We're done. I walked away from them. Walked past the crowd that had gathered to watch. Walked out of the arena with my degree, my signing bonus check, and disownment papers I'd never sign. They called after me. I didn't turn around. I got in my car and drove to my apartment in Seattle. The apartment they'd never visited. The life they'd never been part of. The success they'd never supported. And for the first time in 4 years, I felt completely free. Over the next week, my parents called 57 times. I counted. Didn't answer once. They sent emails. Long, rambling messages about misunderstandings and mistakes. About how proud they were. About how they'd always believed in me. I deleted them without reading past the first lines. They showed up at my apartment building. The front desk called to ask if I wanted to see them. I said no. They stood outside for 2 hours before finally leaving. Cameron called. Madison, you need to talk to Mom and Dad. They're devastated. They disowned me. They made a mistake. They didn't know. They didn't know because they didn't care enough to ask. Don't defend them, Cameron. You're the golden child. You've always been the golden child. You have no idea what it was like being compared to you constantly and found lacking. That's not fair. What's not fair is them erasing me from the family because I didn't meet their standards. What's not fair is them only valuing me once they found out I was worth something. What's not fair is you calling me to defend them instead of acknowledging they were wrong. I'm not defending them. I'm asking you to forgive them. Why should I? Because they're our parents. Because family is family. Family doesn't disown you, Cameron. Family doesn't hand you legal documents erasing you from their lives. They stopped being my family when they made that choice. So, you're just cutting them off forever? They cut me off first. I'm just not fighting to get back in. He hung up. Didn't call again. My first day at Next Tech was the following Monday. I showed up at 8 a.m. to an office with my name on the door. Madison Bennett, lead encryption engineer. Real title. Real office. Real respect. Vincent met me with coffee. How are you handling everything? The job or my family? Both. The job is great. My family is no longer my problem. I saw what happened at graduation. The disownment papers. That was harsh. It was honest. They finally said out loud what they'd been thinking for years. I'm just the first person to take them seriously. For what it's worth, they called the office. Asked to speak with me. Wanted to know if the announcement was real. If you really earned what I said you earned. What did you tell them? That every word was true. That you're one of the most talented engineers I've ever worked with. That they raised an exceptional daughter and were too blind to see it. How did they respond? Your father asked if there was any way to undo what they'd done. I told him that wasn't my business. But I did tell him that talent like yours doesn't need validation from people who missed it the first time. I smiled. Thank you. You earned every bit of what you have, Madison. Don't let anyone, family or otherwise, make you doubt that. I spent the first week diving into projects, developing new encryption protocols, working with teams implementing my code. Every day, I came home tired and satisfied. I was building something real, something that mattered, something that was entirely mine. And I was doing it without the family that had decided I wasn't worth keeping. 3 months after graduation, my parents showed up at Next Tech. Security called my office. Ms. Bennett, there are 2 people in the lobby claiming to be your parents. They're asking to see you. Tell them I'm in a meeting. They said they'll wait. Tell them I'm in meetings all day. They said they'll wait all day. I sighed. I'll be down in 5 minutes. I took the elevator to the lobby. My parents sat in the waiting area, both looking older than I remembered. My mother's hair had more gray. My father's face had more lines. They stood when they saw me. Madison, what are you doing here? We needed to see you, my mother said. You won't answer calls. You won't respond to emails. This was our only option.
No.
Your only option was to respect my decision and leave me alone. We can't do that. You're our daughter. No, I'm not. You signed papers saying I'm not. You handed me legal documents erasing me from your family. That was your choice. We made a mistake, my father said. A terrible mistake. We're begging you to forgive us. Why should I? Because we're sorry. Because we love you. Because we want to be a family again. You didn't love me 3 months ago when you thought I was a failure. You only love me now because you found out I'm successful. That's not love. That's conditional acceptance. That's not true. It's completely true. You valued Cameron because he was successful. You dismissed me because you thought I wasn't. Now that you know I am, suddenly I'm worth caring about again. Do you not see how messed up that is? My mother was crying. We were wrong about everything.
We see that now.
We were terrible parents to you. We compared you to Cameron. We didn't support you. We didn't even try to understand what you were doing. We failed you.
Yes.
You did. Can you forgive us? And no, maybe someday. But not today. Not 3 months after you disowned me. Not when your apology is motivated by finding out I succeeded despite you. What would it take? My father asked. What do we need to do to earn your forgiveness?
Time.
Years, probably. You need to prove you've actually changed. That you've learned something. That you value people for who they are, not what they achieve. And honestly, I don't know if you can do that. You've spent 22 years treating me like I was less important than Cameron. 3 months of regret doesn't undo 22 years of damage. We'll wait, my mother said. However long it takes. We'll prove we've changed. Maybe. But you'll do it from a distance. You're not part of my life right now. You're not welcome at my apartment. You're not welcome at my workplace. If I decide to forgive you someday, I'll reach out. Until then, leave me alone. Madison. I said leave me alone. I'm done with this conversation. I turned and walked back to the elevators. Didn't look back. Didn't watch them leave. When I got back to my office, Vincent was waiting. You okay? Getting there. They gone.
For now.
They'll probably try again. Want me to ban them from the building?
No.
They'll get the message eventually. But I wasn't sure they would. Some people never learn. 6 months after graduation, I got promoted. Senior lead encryption engineer. Salary increased to $150,000. My royalties were now generating $30,000 a month because Nextech had expanded to international clients. I was making more money at 23 than my father had made at 40. More than Cameron made at his consulting firm. I bought a condo in downtown Seattle. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, view of the water. Furnished it exactly how I wanted. Built a life that had nothing to do with the family that had rejected me. My parents sent a card for my birthday. I didn't open it. Cameron sent a text asking if we could have coffee. I said no. Then, 8 months after graduation, my mother had a heart attack. Cameron called me from the hospital. Madison, you need to come. Mom's in surgery. It's serious. I'm sorry she's sick. That's it? You're sorry? What else do you want me to say? I want you to come to the hospital. She's your mother. She might die. She's the woman who disowned me. She made her choice. I'm making mine. You're really that cold? I'm that hurt, Cameron. There's a difference. She spent my entire life making me feel worthless. Then formally disowned me. Now I'm supposed to rush to her bedside because she's sick?
Why?
So she can apologize again? So I can forgive her before she dies and make everyone feel better? So you can have a relationship with your mother before it's too late. It's already too late. It was too late the moment she handed me those papers. She regrets it. Every day. You should see her. She's miserable without you.
Good.
Maybe she'll learn something from being miserable. I certainly did when she made me feel that way for 22 years. Madison, please.
No.
I'm not coming. Tell her I hope she recovers. Tell her I'm sorry she's sick. But tell her I'm not ready to forgive. And I might never be. I hung up. My mother survived. Cameron sent me an update a week later. She'd had bypass surgery. Was recovering.
would be fine.
I felt relieved. I didn't want her to die. But I still wasn't ready to see her. 2 weeks after her surgery, my mother sent a handwritten letter. Not email, not text. Actual letter on paper, mailed to my condo. Madison, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to be part of my life again. But I need you to know that almost dying made me understand something I should have understood years ago. Your worth was never about your grades or your job or your achievements. Your worth was inherent. You were valuable because you were my daughter, not because of what you did or didn't accomplish.
I see that now.
I wish I'd seen it sooner. I wish I'd told you that you were enough exactly as you were. I wish I'd supported you instead of comparing you to Cameron. I wish I'd asked about your life instead of assuming you had nothing to show for it. I was wrong about everything. I failed you as a mother. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just telling you I finally understand.
And I'm sorry. So deeply sorry.
If you ever decide to let me back into your life, I'll be grateful. If you don't, I'll understand. Either way, I love you. Not because you're successful. Because you're you, Mom. I read the letter 5 times. Then I put it in a drawer and went to work. I wasn't ready to respond. Wasn't sure if I ever would be. But for the first time in 8 months, I thought maybe someday I could be. 1 year after graduation, I got another promotion. Director of Security Engineering. $200,000 salary. My royalties were now generating $50,000 a month. At 23, I was making more than both my parents combined. I'd also published 3 papers. Spoken at 2 industry conferences. Been interviewed for tech magazines. Built a reputation as one of the leading minds in data encryption. My life was exactly what I'd wanted. Successful, independent, respected. But it was also lonely. I had colleagues, not friends. I had achievements, not relationships. I had success, not family. I thought about my mother's letter, about her heart attack, about how quickly everything can change. On the 1-year anniversary of my graduation, I drove to Bellevue, to my parents' house. The house I'd grown up in. The house I'd left a year earlier with disownment papers. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes before getting out. My mother answered the door. She looked shocked. Madison, can I come in? Of course. Please. She led me to the living room. My father was there reading. He looked up, and his face went pale. Madison. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. I got your letter, Mom. The one you sent after your surgery. I meant every word. I know. That's why I'm here. Are you ready to talk? I'm ready to try. I'm not ready to forgive. Not completely. But I'm ready to see if we can build something new. My father leaned forward. What would that look like? It would look like you actually getting to know me. Not comparing me to Cameron. Not valuing me based on my achievements. Just knowing me as a person. We want that, my mother said quickly. It would also look like boundaries. I come here when I'm ready. You don't show up at my work or my home uninvited. You don't push for more than I'm willing to give. You respect my pace. We can do that, my father said. And it would look like honesty. You admit when you were wrong. You don't rewrite history. You don't pretend the disownment didn't happen. You own what you did and work to be better. We will, my mother promised. I don't know if this will work, I said. I don't know if I can fully forgive you, but I'm willing to try if you are. We are, they said together. We talked for 2 hours. About the past year.
About my job.
About Mom's recovery. About Cameron, who was apparently struggling with his own issues. It wasn't perfect. It was awkward and painful and full of difficult conversations. But it was a start. Here's what I learned from being handed disownment papers at my college graduation. Your family's opinion of you doesn't define your worth. Their blindness to your value doesn't diminish what you've built. Their rejection doesn't determine your future. I spent 4 years working in secret, building something real while my parents decided I was a failure. They looked at my 3.2 GPA and saw mediocrity. They looked at my life and saw disappointment. They looked at me and saw someone not worth keeping. What they didn't see was the 20 hours a week I worked for Nextech. The code I was writing that would secure millions of transactions. the patents with my name on them. The $450,000 I'd earned before I even graduated. They didn't see any of it because they never asked. They assumed. They compared. They judged. And they were wrong about everything. When the CEO announced my achievements at graduation, when he revealed what I'd been hiding, my parents realized their mistake. But that realization came too late. The disownment papers were already signed. The damage was already done. Rebuilding took time. A year of distance. A heart attack. A letter. A decision to try again. And even now, 2 years after graduation, our relationship is complicated. We're not the family we were. We're something different. Something rebuilt from broken pieces. My parents learned that success isn't always visible. That achievement doesn't always look the way you expect. That your children's worth isn't determined by how they compare to each other. I learned that forgiveness is possible even when it doesn't feel deserved. That rebuilding is harder than starting over. That some relationships can survive rejection if both sides are willing to work. I still have those disownment papers. Keep them in a drawer as a reminder. Not of their cruelty, but of my strength. I survived being erased from my family and built something they never saw coming. Today, I'm 24. Director of Security Engineering at Nextech. Published researcher. Respected in my field. Making more money than I ever imagined. And slowly, carefully, rebuilding a relationship with parents who almost lost me forever. If you've ever been underestimated by your family, if you've built success in secret, if you've been rejected for not meeting someone else's standards, drop a comment. Share where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about families who misjudge, people who succeed anyway, and the complicated path to forgiveness that doesn't erase the past but maybe builds a different future. Remember, being disowned doesn't define you. How you build yourself after rejection does. And sometimes the people who reject you realize too late what they've lost. By then, you've already proven you never needed them to succeed. You just needed yourself.